Hello and welcome to Pat's Latest. I'm your host, Mike Gambardella, and we've got a lot to dive into today for your New England Patriots. We talk about the dangers of the NFL draft and relying on some of those selections and what it could mean for the Patriots and why they should be dipping back into the free agent pool. We'll go over the names that they need to keep in mind and how the offense and defensive additions could stack up and potentially shape some of what the Patriots do in the NFL draft. Additionally, a big time name has officially requested a trade, and so much more. Before that, though, we just want to thank, as always, our subscribers. You make this channel so interesting. Continue to put your comments in there. We'll answer them right here on the show. And if you haven't yet, go down and hit that subscribe button so you can get the latest news and information on your favorite team each and every single day with us here on Pat's Latest. We won't make you wait any longer. We first get into the dangers of the NFL draft. And this goes into what the Patriots are set up to do. And last year, this worked perfectly. The draft class was phenomenal. It stepped in, provided valuable snaps, both starters and reserves. And it's something that the Patriots haven't done in a few years. So it's great to see a divergence from that. And it's that contribution that allowed the Patriots to get all the way to the Super Bowl. But that is a double-edged sword, and that's the danger of the draft. Because yes, you can draft for depth and you have your starters. Patriots have their starting lineup on both sides of the ball set right now. What they're doing now is saying we're going to draft replacement players, essentially, or injury replacements. If something goes wrong, we'll have a young guy who's ready, but you're assuming that your evaluations are right, that the player is ready, that they can make that jump. It is extremely difficult to do that consistently, to be able to evaluate, and that's not just at a first and second round level. They're day two picks. This is at day three as well, finding those guys, those undrafted free agents. You're still expecting Efton Chisholm to come in and provide meaningful snaps this year. Maybe Lan Larison, who is an undrafted running back last year, cracks his way into the rotation. You're hoping for these things to happen. It is no guarantee. That's why you take such serious thought about getting someone like AJ Brown, because there's no guarantee that the guy that you draft becomes an immediate starter, let alone a potential all pro. So there's many ways this can go, but you kind of have to keep back of mind that yes, you're really going to rely on your scouting, and it was great last season. You hope that it's going to be the same. And if it is, that's the scenario that actually gets you back to the Super Bowl. But it is much more important to have backup plans to that. And that's something the Patriots do not have in a lot of abundance right now, is depth. And that's why I think it becomes very important for the Patriots to start to sign some additional free agents. And this is not to say that it's big time signings. A lot of these splash names are gone, but there are a few big name players that might make sense. And we talk about guys that maybe seem a little long in the tooth or over the hill, if you will. But we'll start with a big one. How about Joey Bosa? He is out there, obviously played for the Buffalo Bills last year. He just hit 30 years old. He could command a salary, probably a market value around $13 million. But could you now get a discount for somebody, quote unquote, chasing a ring? Would he be willing to sign a 1 year, $10 million deal? And now suddenly you're able to have an edge rotation that looks very formidable. And then if you do then double down or triple down or quadruple, depending on how you're looking at the depth of your edge position, go and draft an edge defender as well to go with him. Suddenly, for me, that makes a ton of sense as long as the salary cap dollars are going with what Elliott Wolf and company are trying to line up. A few others that could make some sense as well. How about Leonard Floyd? And yes, a couple of years removed from high level production, but even with Atlanta last year, he still had some great moments and battling through some injuries as well. But that average annual value around $8 million becomes a lot more palatable. Another edge defender to throw out there as a big name. And this would be more of that locker room ad that you want to keep that culture that Mike Vrabel built, because talking about bringing a 36-year-old player on an NFL team, usually not the way you want to go. But New Orleans edge defender Cameron Jordan, absolute consummate pro, and I think someone that could make a ton of sense if you're looking to really nurture a lot of the defensive younger guys that you have as well. At 36 years of age, you could probably get that average annual value on a 1 year deal closer to $7 million, maybe even six. Again, now these are guys starting to chase a ring. Now, this is not something the Patriots have not been able to do in quite some time, but this is the boon when you have a young star quarterback and you have a team that just made it to the Super Bowl. So, again, these are scenarios that you could see playing out. Some other ones for the depth side, defensive tackle definitely goes a long way. Keep David Onyemata, the other another Atlanta Falcon actually, but would be well suited to come into the defensive line rotation for the Patriots. Who, yes, Durden and Williams, they played their butts off behind Milton Williams and Christian Barmore. But if you have another injury to one of those guys, you definitely need some bodies. And don't be surprised again if that's a spot where the Patriots prioritize on their first few days of picks in the NFL draft. And this goes back to the danger of the draft is don't force those guys to say you're immediately in there. Earn your way. Go get it through. Don't guarantee some of these contracts. And now suddenly you force these rookies to play harder. You learn faster. And this goes back into the culture side as well. The last one we'll mention here is Dallas Cowboys safety Donovan Wilson, 29 years old, some ups and downs, but I think, again, Patriots do need additional safety help back there. So it's $7 million annual value. If you can do a 1 or 2 year deal, maybe non guaranteed in the second, it makes a lot more sense. So there could really be some big names on the horizon for this Patriots team, not just those who we're looking at in the NFL draft. And the same thing goes, I think, for the offensive side of the ball for the Patriots is they need a lot of help on that offensive line. And yes, fine, you have your starters set. Wilson kicks in at center, right? Elijah Viertecker at guard, Will Campbell hopefully healthy on that left side. And you know what you've got from Mike Onwenu, and Morgan Moses was great at right tackle last season, but was able to stay healthy. But as he gets up there and approaches his mid-30s, suddenly you really need that swing tackle that you can trust. And I think Thayer Munford makes a ton of sense to return to the Patriots, but he is much more in that swing tackle mode. If you had to rely on him for a longer stretch or perhaps a playoff run at that right tackle position, you might start to be hesitant. So there are guys out there. I mean, Taylor Decker's out there, 32 years old, the Detroit Lions. He would probably command $20 million on a 1 year deal. But if you weigh things out, can you get it down a little bit and say, Taylor, this is what we're thinking? Maybe there's something there. Maybe there's a Mike Vrabel magic to that. That could be probably the stretch of all stretches. Maybe someone like Cam Robinson at offensive tackle, who, a little bit younger, get away for 13 to $10 million. And there's the entire Cleveland offensive line really is out there. Joel Bitonio, if you're looking for, backup at the guard spot, Ethan Posick at center as well. These guys in that 10 to $13 million mark. And again, I know you need to be hesitant of spending big money, but you need to keep this back of mind. And I think the defense is where you would actually go out and sign guys right now. The rest of the offensive line, you're probably going to wait out through the draft. Can you find some guys that you are comfortable with, and then maybe find a veteran presence here or there? And maybe it's even taking it a step further to go, hey, let's only do a $2 million deal. Let's look at guys like Will Hernandez with the Arizona Cardinals, Andrews Pete for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And again, not guys that are going to be plug and play starters, but maybe a little bit more comfortable on that second line. Even Joe Noteboom, the left tackle from Baltimore. There are guys out there that I think can come in and at least build that culture and guard against young guys being put into unenviable positions right away, and still keeping guys like David Njoku. And I continue to talk about the tight end position. It's something that the Patriots have to add. It's very clear that they're going to do that in the NFL draft. It just depends on what round they go. And I think the later in the draft shows their belief in Julian Hill to really be that number two tight end, what Austin Hooper was last year. I think if you go and get someone like David Njoku, it really shows Hill as truly just a blocking tight end, and they're looking for a pass catcher as well. And then if you go further down the line, if you look at, hey, we only want to spend $1 million or $2 million here for average annual value, then yeah, Harrison Bryant, the former Cleveland Brown and Houston Texan last year, at 27 years old, I think that makes sense as someone who you're comfortable putting in a spot like that, as opposed to really having to go up early in the draft and get a tight end. And there's nothing bad about that. You can actually get a very talented player, whether, someone like Tucker Kraft recently, Trey McBride. There are guys that can come into the league and show out immediately. You saw what Colston Loveland did last year, and obviously that's a top 10 pick. And where Kenyon Sadiq, he could be available at the back end of the first round, at pick number 31. Maybe that makes a lot of sense for the Patriots, but first and foremost, there needs to be the address of the offensive line and then continuing to find those offensive options to build out for Drake May to make sure he has plenty of firepower to do what he needs to do in order to give this Patriots team that will have obviously a much more difficult schedule here in 2026, but they will still have the chance to compete for an AFC East championship and for playoff success. And the final one today is a bit of a shocker, a trade request from Big Sexy Dexy himself, yes, we'll say it. Dexter Lawrence, the star defensive lineman for the New York Giants, has officially requested a trade. Lawrence has been trying to get a raise with no avail from the Giants, and he kind of is playing all of his cards at this point. The Giants have resisted giving him that raise. They want to see it play out. The next steps here now becomes, will the Giants get an offer that they're actually interested in? General consensus around this, Jordan Rahman reporting, is that it could return, potentially a late first round, likely a second rounder if traded. So now, again, it's, what do you value? And I think for the Patriots, this doesn't make a ton of sense because not only are you giving up the draft assets, but you're giving the salary as well. He wants a raise, so you're going to have to give him money to keep him happy, along with giving up a second rounder or a package of picks around that. Now, again, the thought of putting Dexter Lawrence, Christian Barmore, and Milton Williams in the middle of a defense is straight up scary, but I think unless you are feeling very comfortable on, hey, we can get this done for a third and a fifth and we'll fit it into our salary cap, that's a pie in the sky scenario. And I don't think the Giants will go for it. I think it's a bit of posturing saying, look, we're not going to get a deal that knocks our socks off. And that shows that nobody else is willing to give you that either, which kind of puts everybody else at ease. But I think if a team like perhaps the Baltimore Ravens that didn't get a deal done for Max Crosby and is looking for some juice on the defensive line, could they be the ones to go out and say, here's a second round pick, and of course we'll pay him too? Yes, they did get Trey Hendrickson, but do you want to continue to funnel into the success of that defensive line? It'll be very interesting to track and see where that starts to break out. But for the Patriots, again, I think unless this is a scenario where, you moved on from Christian Barmore, say you traded him to move on from a $17 million contract, and you're more comfortable giving that to someone like Dexter Lawrence, or you're able to get this as a five and dime, right? A third round pick and a fifth round pick and a slight, bump on the salary, then sure, make it happen. But again, I think we address because it's a big name that's out there in a surprising time, but this doesn't make a ton of sense for the Patriots right now. That'll do it for us here on this episode of Pat's Latest, but we want to hear from you. Get in the comments. Let us know who you think the top free agents are the Patriots should be addressing in free agency, along with those trouble spots. What do they need to back up, in your opinion? And the best ones we'll put right up here on the show. If you have any other questions, if it's do you think it's draft? Do you think it's free agency? Do you think it's trade? Do they need to just get AJ Brown right now? Let us know. Sound off in the comments and we will answer them right here for you. And again, if you haven't subscribed, go down and do it so you can find out about your favorite team each and every single day. We're just a couple weeks away from the NFL draft, one of the best times of the year. Football Christmas in April, if you will. So make sure you stick with us. Give us a like if you like what you hear, and go back and check out all those old episodes so you know everything you can about the Pats. We'll continue to bring it all for you right here. Fight on, Foxborough.